Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LJL Officially Unofficial Podcast, Season 3, Episode 4. I will be your host, co-host, I'm not sure how this works. Alex knows sexy guy by MaskedSwan on the internet. The man in the middle isn't here, but filling in for him is a member of the class of 2021 of the LJLOU. It's Middlecott. Hello, this way, Middlecott. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello.
I did cast the LJL in 2021.
You did?
Apparently, I was good enough to be brought back for 2022, which is a questionable decision, perhaps. But yeah, I've been really enjoying the split that we've had so far. We've had some banger games, had some interesting. Well, it's been a lot of fun so far.
Yeah, and we did Academy together, remember, mate? Like, that was a wild
How
ride.
could I forget? How could I forget? Oh, my word. Those,
Well, did you push it out your brain?
we got pretty spicy at some points in Academy, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's cool seeing some of the Academy players move up into the main LGL. Obviously, we'd hope that a couple of them had done a little bit better than they have ended up doing, but I'm sure that we're going to touch on that more as we go throughout the show.
We absolutely will, sir. We absolutely will. And that small chuckle that you heard before I've introduced him, perfect. I love it when we get small tidbits for our audio listeners out there. RandomMCaster, or RandomMCaster as he's known on Twitter. So welcome to the show, first time ever.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And apparently for today, we've got top right cot is me, and I'm random Middlecaster for today. That's what the M stands for. We'll see kind of how that goes. But yeah, glad to be here. I have no clue what I'm doing, by the way. I just literally got a message telling me, "Hey, you're free."
That's kind of how it works.
And then all of a sudden, he's casting LGL. That's how it works.
Yeah. Come on this show first, and then you can go on. Wait, except you've already done. I think you've already casted 6 games for us already, haven't you, RMC?
Yes, 6. Yep, 6 games so far. Yeah.
Wild ride. You've been a fantastic addition. Obviously, so you come from another unofficial broadcast, which we've got to plug.
Whoa. NA is an official region. Thank you very much. But
I mean, of course, you did that to my main region now, so we got to talk about that later, bruv. Like LCS, I love them.
No. Oh no.
Always, yeah, but no, I'm actually from the CBLOL unofficial or English stream as well. Here, absolutely been loving all these minor regions, and it's so fun watching the differences between Japan and Brazil as well.
Yeah. I mean, Middlecott, you jumped in recently to CBLOL,
yes.
didn't you?
Yeah, did a few games over there. Very strange. I love that it's not just the LGL, which is out of minor regions, which has pure fiestas and games that don't make any sense, and drafts that are really interesting, and team fights, and just the way that the game is played is so unique at the minor region level. And obviously, every different league has its own individual differences. But it's nice that the fiesta, the fun side of League of Legends is something that percolates through all of them.
Oh, it absolutely does. I've just realised what you gentlemen were seeing, and there we go.
Yep.
I'm not going to actually have it so you guys can see what I'm going to be putting on screen. Rather, that's behind the scenes stuff, ladies and gentlemen.
Don't worry about that.
I need to make an announcement to everybody out there, because honestly, I'm just going to steal some of the time here. Myself, Sam, and Alex, we started this project a few months ago now. So it would be about 2 and 3 months ago. 2 years and 3 months. With the idea that we want to get into casting, and we had no idea how to do this. I had done a little bit of Magic the Gathering casting. Alex had done a little bit of League casting, and we were all completely new to the scene. You never have the ambition that you're going to make it big. You never assume everything's going to work out for you. And obviously things are going really well for both Sam and Alex, but the LJLOU has kind of just sat there in its own little bubble of success. It's been a successful project for us. And this third year we are trying to push it to its absolute limit. Maybe a bit too much, but we'll get to recap at the end of the year how that's gone and how successful it's been. We had actual kind of stamp seal of approval from Riot Games, Riot Japan, Riot what's the League of Legends actual League of Legends account for Riot Japan? So all of the accounts, Lolly Sports, Riot JP, and League of Legends JP tweeted out and made a video all talking about Kanatsu. Now this was a player who I scouted way back in the scouting grounds. Like, I've been calling this guy since back then. We had our casters. Middlecott was included in that video because it was 2021 VODs we had. It was Initialize, the screaming of Nymera, Middlecott famously saying, and we've used that same clip as well, which is why I'm pretty sure it was taken for it, of Arya, what are you doing? Because it's a fantastic call.
Oh, yeah.
As well as Formal and Midnight screaming as a fantastic Australian duo down under. By the way, the fact that those guys aren't on LCO is just wild, because they're some of the best casters in the industry, but maybe I'm biased. But there's a video gone out. We've tweeted out through our account. It was crazy to think that happened. And we're not official yet. And before we came on, RMC, you actually made the very the point that we probably are the only unofficial broadcast to kind of get this vague seal of approval of what we're doing at the moment is what Riot is okay with. Which, go for it.
I know. I mean, there's a lot of sort of unofficial minor region leagues going on here. I love the fact that it's been growing, especially in the last couple of years here. But usually, like at most, you have a little bit of connections. You maybe talk to the players, coaches, and that's kind of about it. Maybe you get leaked a little bit of info ahead of time. But they don't usually officially recognize us. And to see the LJL get kind of officially recognized, that's absolutely massive. And you love to see it too, because that sort of relationship, that's something that we want to see grow a lot as well.
Yeah, and the fact that we've had it means that potentially there will be opportunities for others in the future as well. It means also maybe this is a sign for the LJLOU. We don't know shit at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. We are very transparent with a lot of stuff going on, especially when you have a scene of like 30 plus people behind the scenes pushing for this project. Secrets don't get kept for very long unless it's kept in a very small group of people. At this moment in time, we're all just kind of a bit teary-eyed, kind of going, holy shit, that's incredible that Riot featured us in a video about a Japanese player, and they didn't have to. They could have just used the Japanese casters and it would have still been a fantastic video. It would have been a fantastic video without us. The fact that they did that, and that's the gesture, and they didn't even ask us or anything, because they own the videos and VODs, by the way. Like we're not complaining. We're flabbergasted they even wanted to do that. So yeah, wanted to just put that out there. If you haven't seen the video, go watch the video, obviously, because it's got our boys and girls and everyone that pushed and has been making this project what it is today. Thank you, Riot. Honestly, thank you.
And I also want to say, obviously LJLOU is a team, and it's great, like, as a caster to have your sort of like work recognized, but I think it's very, very hard to understate the amount of effort that people put in behind the scenes into making the LJLOU work. And it's one of the reasons why I think this is, I'm gonna lose a couple of friends, the best minor region broadcast in the world. There are a load of good ones, but damn, here in Japan we got the absolute best one.
Middlecott, you were on all of the unofficial broadcasts last week.
Not all of them. I wasn't on VCS last week.
I thought you were on VCS last week.
May change this week. We'll just keep that on the down low, keep that on the hush hush for now. But no, doing a little bit of a world tour. It's cool. And like I said before, it means that you could see all these different metas and you can scout out your opposition for MSI and Worlds play-ins and stuff like that.
But gentlemen, we're not just here. We're not just here to talk about and gush over the fact that LJLOU got featured by Riot Japan and everything. I'm going to have to just quickly transition over. We've not got the right names underneath.
That's fine.
None of us have got the right names.
It's fine.
That's fine.
Go with it, all right? Because it's just easier for me. May I just say this was a bit of an impromptu one and a lot of dashing around. As you can already see, it says episode 3 up there, not episode 4. So, I mean, I broke it from before we went over. But, gentlemen, actually, no. Before we do that,
okay,
I need to do my due diligence. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like what the LJL Officially Unofficial puts out, I would like you to do a few things for me. If you're feeling up for it, obviously. Number 1, like this video if you're on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you ring that bell as well. But if you're an audio podcast savant, share this podcast with all of your favorite people. On Apple Podcasts, make sure to rate us 5 stars over there.
Yeah.
Think that's everything.
Yeah.
Where is
Like-
that MaskedSwan when we're casting
Like-
games? Like, I want to hear an entire game cast in that voice.
I absolutely could. Oh my god, honey! How can you do this every single time?
I really like the Tryndamere pick here.
Yes, the Tryndamere pick is fantastic because it's
Tryndamere, I
a
really-
brilliant way to match the split pushing capabilities that Camille offers. Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
But yeah, Middlecott, how's your week been, buddy? Got to do the due diligence. How your week been, buddy?
Week's been all right. A little bit frustrating. I've had a few shifts of work cancelled because of all the storms that have been going on the UK and stuff.
Of course,
Apparently,
yes.
Oh, yeah.
apparently you can't work in a building that doesn't have a roof.
Well, if you work at a
Don't-
farm, I think it's okay. But you don't work at a farm, do you? If the roof comes off the barn, that's kind of just.
Is this
half
the
course.
game that we're playing now, Lex? We're going to play the game of list the jobs that you can work out that don't require a roof. No, probably not the best subject for a podcast.
No,
man.
no.
Like, you've been doing this a long time. You should be better than this by now. But yeah, trampoline place. Apparently, if there's no roof, there's a risk of children jumping out of the trampoline park onto the pavement.
That sounds like
next to it, so-
content.
Actually, yeah. I'm sure there's a niche for that.
No. One person's content is another person's health and safety violation. And they don't seem to be too on board with content as an excuse for stuff like that. So
No?
yeah, I've been chilling a little bit. Got a load of broadcasts lined up for the rest of this week, which is going to be lots of fun.
Amazing. Anything big you want to plug at this moment in time, or do you want to save it to the end?
Is there anything big? I don't
know. I'm asking you, mate.
Well, it's just
Bro,
like
it's
you're
your schedule.
telling me to save it for the end. I was like, I don't know if I've got anything to the end. No.
All right,
just
fine. Well,
going along doing
come on,
casting.
mate. Come on, I can switch this over to our other guest. This is fine, mate. RandomMCaster, how's your week been, buddy? How you doing?
My week has been glorious so far. Lots of stuff going on. I've been casting lots of things, so super happy about it. Didn't cast CBLOL last weekend, which is a little bit sad. But I'll be back on that again this weekend, so that's all good. In NA, we've got the amateur scene Proving Ground circuit qualifiers going on, so that's been super fun. Group stages just started yesterday. Yeah, I got to be on the analyst desk for that, and it was insane. Like, it's so fun watching the amateur level players because these guys know no fear. It's like watching college football. I don't know if like you guys have an equivalent in the UK about like college football, but like the players go nuts because they're trying to get picked up for teams, so they will do anything to get noticed. So like in our first series last night, which we got to watch on the main stream, on the academy stream, the game 3 ended with a base race where the difference was one auto, and either team could have won. Like, it was nuts. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. So it's been a great week. Next week's more of the same, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Amazing. I love the fact that college football. God, I used to watch a lot of this this YouTube channel called Space Zone. I think it's what it's called. It's done by John Boyes. If you know John Boyes.
No.
So he does a
Exactly
lot.
ring bells.
So he does one. He literally does. I would say if I had a top 10 list of favorite all-time best YouTube videos, the dumbest boy alive is what is in my top 5 of that top 10. It's that insanely good. Genuinely, it's that insane. And it basically talks about how like these people on a bodybuilding forum site became the dumbest boy, and it's this whole internet thing. That's not important to this. He does a lot of like football stuff and sports stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
where
okay.
I always find out random bits of information. I love it. Sad that you weren't on CBLOL, mate. It's not the same. But you CBLOL did
fine.
very
No,
similar to LJLOU. Like,
Yeah,
you
we
guys
brought
brought in a
it,
lot
got him.
more casters, didn't you?
Yeah, and it's partially like I had IRL stuff. I had a wedding to attend that day, but it was a crazy weekend. Like I've been catching up with all the games, and yeah, it was kind of whack too. CBLOL is super fun. Like I'm sure Middlecott got to experience some of that. In fact, he cast one of the big upsets.
It's mad. It's mad.
It's absolutely mad. And it's very different from LJL, where I feel like the LJL is a little slower to start the game. CBLOL has no chill. Like right from the get-go, junglers are invading each other, supports are invading each other, and just fight the entire way. So it's super glorious, and because of that, you get a lot of coin flip situations. So yeah, and the teams are actually really closely matched. We have a five-way tie for first right now.
Five-way tie.
week 4 we had a 3-way. No, sorry. Week 2 we had a 4-way tie for third, or yeah, I think it was third. And then in week 4 we had a 3-way tie for third, and then in week 5 we've got a 5-way tie for first now. So it's just.
I tell you what, something would have gone really wrong in the LGL if we ended up with a 5-way tie for first. Like that is.
We actually had something like that in the
Really?
summer of 2020 when DFN fell apart. Like we actually had something along those lines.
You know what?
When
Yeah,
DFN
actually,
in their- yeah.
I would love
they
to see
came
it.
back,
I would love to see
obviously.
And I mean, given how V3 did at Worlds, I think something did go really, really wrong. So,
V3 didn't. No, I'm not doing this conversation again. They didn't play their play style, but that's not the point here, gentlemen. You've set me up beautifully for this, so we're going to transition over. I've got our names right as well. Look at how much of a host,
Wow,
a
you're
producer.
amazing.
I'm a multi-talented machine. And as is the LJL, a multi-talented machine. When you consider the fact that we don't have that, we've got a Detonation Focus Me leading the charge at 5-0, undefeated. Fantastic week for them. 3-0 this week. Burning Core and Sengoku Gaming keeping up the heat, going both. I believe it was. So Sengoku went 3-0. Burning Core went 2-1 this week.
Yep.
Rascal Jester had a 2-1 week as well, if I remember rightly.
Yep.
Oh no, they had a 1-2 week.
2-1. They
Was it 2-1?
only lost to Sengoku.
That's right. Yes, because they had a positive match, and that was always going to cause an upset for one of the two teams. That's correct. Axis had a pretty bad week, 3-0. Oh no, 0-3 week. Not great for them. We'll cover it. We'll get into these teams a bit more, ladies and gentlemen. Don't you worry. Crest Gaming Act, I believe, went 1-2, or was it 2-1? 2-1. Jesus
2-1.
Christ.
We went positive. Let's go.
My biggest upset for the week, yeah.
Yeah, and sadly, the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks super team is not a super team, and they went 0-3. And V3 Esports, this whole Japanese roster is just not working. At least their games are fast, though. Like that's the thing I like to say. The bottom two teams, if you've got a Hawks match, you're gonna be there for 35 minutes. Like you're locked in. And you just gotta run it through. You gotta go. So I'll be honest, lads. When I had to cast one of the Hawks games, it felt like I was going through the motions a little bit. Like I was just like, they're going over here, then they'll go over here. Oh my god, Hawks won this fight, but they're gonna lose. Like they're gonna lose in my head. Yeah. Whereas V3, it's like, well, at least they're gonna fight and lose very quickly. They just roll over.
Go ahead, in the danger of doing something which is close to analysis, I think we could kind of see that V3, a lot of the players there, not quite LJL level in a lot of circumstances. I feel like there's a bit of a lack of synergy, a bit of a lack of identity, but that's why their games are fast, because they're kind of getting diffed. The Hawks have actually got good players who can lane decently, and they've even got some exceptional players that can lane exceptionally, but the coordination just doesn't seem to be there for me.
I wonder if V3 is going to be a repeat of what Axis was last year. Because there is the chance of that. Because Axis last split in their spring was fucking horrible. Like, they had very rare moments where it looked like it was coming together. And that was far more Hoglet and Honey. But then again, you don't have Hoglet and Honey.
You got
Unica, who's fine, who's actually been fine, but he also runs down
he's all right. He's all right.
And you got Dresscode, who's been probably their best player, but that's not saying much. So, well, I guess Yu-Gi-Oh! I would actually probably say is their best player. He's just against the mid pool of talent. But then, bot lane talent's so good.
It's so hard to say about V3 because I do feel like individually their players aren't doing terrible. Like I wouldn't say like they're trash, right? Like I don't look at any one lane and go like, oh, this is the whole problem with V3. It's just that all their lanes are slightly below average, and then together the problem is when they play up against other teams, it just feels like they don't have a winning lane to ever play through. And then what they do end up having is a losing lane that the other team plays through, which then creates a situation where they just get run over fairly quickly. And then, like you said, Middlecott, against the likes of, the SoftBank Hawks here, it's kind of the opposite situation where the SoftBank Hawks look pretty good in all their lanes. I think their laning stats are pretty decent. Considering they've lost every single game, they're like average for goals. So it's like they're not losing the early game by any means, right? they just never quite come together. And when the two teams play each other, which is going to happen, I think, on day 7, so on Friday,
Yeah, on
we're going to
Friday.
have the unstoppable force meets the immovable object, where the unstoppable force is how quickly can you lose versus the immovable object, which is a team that just refuses to lose.
I would say that I don't want to call either of these teams an unstoppable in that scenario. I think it's two immovable objects, and they're called immovable objects because they're not doing very much proactively. I did say that actually. Do you know what? There was some decent link ups between Liner and Dasher in the Hawks game versus, I want to say, Axis. I think off the top of my head, like some recon roams into the mid lane that were pretty effective, but then they're just not able to play out the rest of the fights, which is a sad thing. Which is a sad thing.
Yeah, it is. But I would argue the reason it's so sad and so bad, more than anything else, is because if you look at the nameplates, you just look at this team and go, they should be like positive. They should be a +3 and 2. They should be where Rascal Jesters are, or where Axis are. Like we could take an Axis position right now for Hawks. It wouldn't be great, but we take that. The fact that they're here, their chances of actually being first or second now in the standings at the end of where it's basically dead.
Yeah. And you know what? That's fine. Like coming from regions where a lot of teams don't perform in regular season well, I don't think they need to be top of the table. What they need to do is come together right now and then make the playoff run.
But they do RMC if they want to make a deep run, because the only team to make it all the way there is V3, and they still lost in the finals. Like, they still got flattened because they'd shown so many games, because the two teams in the Juggernaut match, it's such an advantage.
It is, but if you're that good, you're going to beat everyone anyways, right? Do I think the Hawks are that good? No. But if you really are that good, like if Detonation focus me, where it's just like something happens and their roster just doesn't show up for like the last half a season, I would still expect them to make, even from the losers run all the way to the top. I would still expect them to win it, because right now they look completely unstoppable. It literally doesn't matter which team you put in their way here. Whereas, for the SoftBank Hawks, that was what they were supposed to be. And I still think they could do it on paper. They just somehow need to start coming together, because I don't think it's an issue of the names or the people they have on the roster. It's just how they're interacting, how they're coming together.
I want to make some hot takes, because that's what I'm all about as a host.
Okay.
Middlecott.
I think I know what's coming. Yep.
Where are V3 going to finish at the end of this season?
Oh, this isn't a hot take. Last.
All right, where's the Hawks finishing at the end of this season?
You got to make it hot, Middlecott. You've got to say it's a flaming dumpster fire. That's how you make it hot.
Take about V3.
V3. You said V3 last. Where's the Hawks ending?
Come
on.
So what you've done here, and with the standings on the screen, it's very, very obvious what you're attempting to get me to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Do the Hawks leapfrog CGA or Axis at some point? I think those are the teams that we have to talk about. Axis, their week 1 looked good, but I think their week 2 performance and how they've actually ended up in the standings is probably a bit closer to where I would have put them, like, coming in.
Mm-hmm.
The key thing for me, though, at the moment for both Axis and CGA is they've got players that they can play around, and it's working. Like Axis play around Sanchu, CGA play around Hybrid, give them resources and they will win. We haven't seen the Hawks enable Dasher in the same way, and I think it is Dasher who has to be the main carry for that team. He looked incredible in summer. He has once again looked incredible this spring, but they haven't enabled him, freed him up in the same way. If they're able to do that, I think that you could make the argument that they leapfrog Crest and get the last playoff spot. It hurts me to say so much, man.
But why do you think Crest over Axis?
Why do I think Crest would fall down instead of Axis?
Crest had a positive week. Axis went 0-3.
They did have a positive week, but it's also still Crest. And
I'm going to need a little bit more context on why they're still Crest.
So, for those of you who don't know, Crest have been a team in the LJL for a very long time, before I was here, that have had promise, that have had... Yes, it was tempted people in with individual good players on the roster.
Very good players. Some would say LCK-worthy players. Yes. Yes.
I mean, sort of last year it was Nahyun. Year before that, obviously Arya. Year before that, some random guy called Luna that I don't think actually done anything. I don't know where he's gone. But of course, that is Arya before his name change. This year, it's hybrid, and I just don't think that it's a reliable enough strategy. I think Axis in summer made it work with Honey in the bot lane because they had Hoglet in the jungle, and they had stable lanes across the rest of the map. Megaman was never going to game, but he was going to sit there in mid lane, he was going to build Iron Spike Whip on Renekton, he was going to clear the wave, and you were fine. CGA don't have that stability, and so even if hybrid has continual amazing performances, I don't think it's going to be enough throughout the course of the regular season. So if Hawks were going to overtake anyone, I think it would be Crest Gaming Act.
Okay, I'm going to come over to you, RandomMCaster, in a moment, but I just want to make the point that the reason V3 esports are actually falling apart, because neither of you... Actually, no, you know what? RMC, coming to you first. I want to ask this before I give the answer to the big test.
Okay.
Where are V3 falling? In the standings.
I think they're going to be at the bottom right now.
Okay. Why do you think they're going to be in the bottom?
I think the players weren't quite LJL ready, unfortunately. And
echoing Middlecott's earlier.
Yeah, I agree with what Middlecott's saying there. And to me, the problem is when I look at how players or what you can change. Like if it's a bad draft, you can change that between games. You know, if it's a coordination issue, if it's a synergy issue, you can work through that in between weeks, or I'd give it a couple of weeks to work with. But when your players just aren't quite mechanically ready yet, that's not something you can change in the short term. That to me takes a lot of time to build up. And trial by fire works one of two ways. Either you get thrown in the deep end and you learn how to swim real fast, and that happens quick. Like you will see teams grow incredibly quickly. Yeah. We're not seeing that with V3. Or the alternative is they simply just aren't ready to grow yet, and they're not going to grow that quickly. It's going to take significant amounts of time for them to reach that level.
You're both wrong. The actual reason for this, and I mean, if you've done your homework on V3 esports, you know why. It's because V3 don't have an ex-former jungler from Flash Wolves. That's why there's no success on V3! Let's just have a look over to the LCS where, guess what, an alumni of the fucking V3, and guess what, he's popping off and carrying his team. My boy River fucking played in this league first. Going over to PCS, fucking storming it through. Then he came over after Flash Wolves, obviously, after Flash Wolves.
Lexi, I'm not going to raise my voice here because I don't think it's necessary.
How much of an idiot have I made myself?
Well, I don't think it's that. I think to a certain extent you can obviously talk about the lack of a former Flash Wolves jungler, because if you've played on the Flash Wolves, you're probably going to be a good jungler. But I think the loss of Marble is genuinely hurting them, and whilst he's having his own struggles over on the Hawks, I think that V3 would have had a much better introduction to the LJL if they were playing with the lineup that they were playing with in Academy, because whilst the level is lower, and you can kind of just walk over some of the teams in there, keeping that roster consistent when it was so focused on enabling Marble, I think would have been a really good sign for them. Obviously, didn't pan out that way. And they kind of feel like a team without an identity right now, which is, again, sort of something that we were touching on. I feel like we're going pretty ham on V3, but I
mean, mate, they went 0-3. They're 0-5 at the moment. And they are the team at the moment that out of all the teams in the LJL, we're least hopeful on actually any real improvements going to be made quickly.
And in their defense too, I want to say that
we're being realistic about.
We're being realistic here with where they are. V3 knows exactly where they are, right? When we're not bashing on them, we're not saying oh, you guys are trash or you guys screwed up the offseason. We recognize this is an academy team who's been chucked into the deep end here. And the question for V3 for me has never been where are they going to end in terms of standings. My question is, where are you going to end as players? Can you find an alternative? Can you find wins? I don't care whether or not you're bottom. I care whether you can find wins towards the end of the season and how much this team improves, because you are an academy team.
All right, then. Let's move on, because I do think you are right about that we are probably dunking a little bit on V3. But you are right, they know exactly where they are, and I guess when we see a victory, I'm interested to see how they won and what processes did they go through, what motions happened to actually lead them to the success, and who on that lineup might be it. I still think it's going to be dress code if anybody. But the thing is, the AD carry role is so stacked in the LJL. It's the only role I would really say is super stacked. So, oh well. Let's move over, because I do want to come to you, RMC, for this hot take. Where do you think Hawks are going to end this split?
Oh boy, I was high on Hawks coming in right
this
here.
One, mate.
This is tough. Okay, I'm thinking 5th or 6th. The only question is, do they beat Axis? And my head tells me they should beat Axis, even though they're 0-5 right now. But my heart wants to vote Axis because I love what Axis is doing. Yes. As a color caster, I'll go with my head and say Hawks probably 5th. But if Axis beat them and Hawks are 6th, I'm perfectly happy with that.
All right. I like that take. I actually think that's a really clean way of looking at it. They need to beat Axis, and okay, so Middlecott is going against his favorite team and saying CGA won't make it, and RMC wants only Axis. He's not concerned about CJ because he already thinks CJ's a lock. That's just really interesting how the fanboy overestimated his fanness.
Right. I didn't say that CJ won't make. You asked me how the Hawks make it.
You did, and you told me that it's going to be via CGA. It's not going to be via Axis.
I still think that CJ is 6th place by the end of the season. But if you're asking me, like, if we're setting the initial assumption in playoffs, and you're asking me down there with 3, I'm sorry. I love my boys, but I had to. Like,
but there's no defense, Middlecott. Okay. If you love them, you put them up there.
Okay, yeah, it's DFM. DFM are going to finish 7th. If Hawks are going to make it into playoffs.
Okay. Well, actually, I think there is an interesting conversation to actually be had around CGA versus Axis, because I do think these are the next 2 teams to start talking about, and I think there's a very interesting conversation that you actually set us up for. Because I was talking to a few people actually on one of our new caster. I believe his Twitch is twitch.tv/casteroak, I think is his Twitch, or Oakcast. No, I think it's Caster Oak, at least on Twitter, at least. He was doing a stream, and a bunch of us were talking and kind of doing a VOD review. RMC was leading that review, and kind of just a bunch of us jumping in and having conversations about the pick and ban phase and some stuff. I have had the conversation with several casters in the LJL, and my opinion is CGA has 3 solid members on that team who, on good days, could make an argument for top 3 in their role. On a good day, by the way. Like, and these players are obviously Nap, Hybrid, and Nemo. Nemo has already done the top 3 thing once before, as has Nap. Like, these are 2 players who have done this in the LJL. Nemo on his rookie season, which is crazy in his summer split. And Hybrid has just been, well, Middlecott already called over, core member of this team and a lot of parts. Kassin hasn't blown up as much as we were really hopeful. We thought maybe his first year was going to be a training year, second year was going to be his kind of flourish year. Hasn't panned out so far, but we're only a few games in. We're only 5 games in, so we've still got time. Kaito has been the big crux of this team, and honestly, probably one of the weakest players in the LJL, full stop. Before I hand it over to you gentlemen to take over, Swamp and Sangshu, the 2 imports for Axis, have been critical when it comes to when you consider Axis and their victories and how they've actually been able to perform around team fights and kind of really allowing Axis to actually look like a competent team sometimes when they look all over the place. And that's just to put it lightly and politely. They obviously have Yellow Yoshi, who is playing Bard top Smite. Honestly, just play more Poppy Smite, mate. Just don't. It keeps getting banned. That's the reason.
That makes a lot of sense. Why?
Yes, the Ebby effect. The Cyros effect. The LJL is. Oh yes, we've got one tricks. Mega Man's been fine, but hasn't looked great on anything really. He's looked fine. And Dicey's been fine, but I would. You know what? I think Dicey is the worst support in the OGL right now. Now I think about it.
Well, you're just gonna drop that on us. Why? That is
just gonna throw that out there.
That is both spicy and incorrect, in my opinion.
Patel has been strictly
I like that Axis have gone for this very innovative formula that we've never seen before, where they've got a very good Korean jungler and a very good Korean AD carry that are covering stable lanes. Oh my goodness gracious me, this is exactly what they did in summer. I kind of want to see Yellow Yoshi lane a little bit more before I can actually get a handle on how good he is. But I've been really impressed with Swamp. I've been really impressed with Sanchu. But I think Megaman is actually
Oak casts. Thank you, RMC.
Oak casts, yeah. But I kind of want to talk about Megaman just a little bit because he was very much the weak side player in summer, and I think he still fulfills that role. But he's a hell of a lot more stable than he was at that point. I think he's playing a couple of different champions as well. And I'm not thinking about this guy as a bottom tier mid laner anymore. He's a nice, solid mid tier mid laner, at least in my opinion. And I think that sets up this Axis roster for a lot of success. After saying that I expected them to be doing really badly, I think they've actually got the potential to get sort of third again, which I really didn't expect to say coming into this season. Obviously, issues are going to be coordination, coming together as a team. This is a roster that is only retaining Megamin and I believe Dicey from last split, although may have been somewhere else. Trying to wrap my brains.
Dicey was Axis Academy.
He was Axis Academy, yes. So new players on the roster, but I've actually got decent hopes for these guys, irregardless for the sort of the 0-3 week to this time.
Okay. RMC, go on.
So first of all, I love Axis. I love what they're doing, and I also find it very hard to analyze Axis because they are playing a different game from every other team right now. So Yellow Yoshi, I actually don't know how good his laning really is for the most part. It feels like even when he did play
we
the
did
Urgot
see it this
game,
week. We did see it this week versus Rascal Jesters, where he played a Malphite into Ino and got smacked.
So
smacked. I can't remember if he got counter-picked or not, or if he just picked himself into that lane.
I'm trying to remember. I think he got counter-picked in that.
Okay,
because I think Ino was the last pick. And to be fair to Yellow Yoshi, I actually thought he was doing his job as the Malphite that game. But the laning wasn't. R. Yeah, pretty much, right? Like you survived the laning phase, you didn't feed the GP. You did your job. But I think Axe is just playing a completely different game. And because of that reason, I don't know how good Yellow Yoshi and Swamp really are. Swamp has been benefiting from constant roams with Yellow Yoshi. So you get to do a lot more aggressive things that you normally can't do as a jungler. You get a lot more dives coming through. Megumin, I have been completely unimpressed with Megaman. I know that you guys have been saying that, Megaman weak side flex player. The only two champions I've been okay with were the Vex and the Twisted Fate. And I think partially that is because they are more weak side utility champions. The Rise, unimpressive. Like, not terrible, just you're a Rise. I expect a little bit more out of your Realm Orbs. And the RE games, Nymera needs therapy after those. So
I mean,
it's the point though. It's what Megaman is supposed to do. He's still supposed to be weak side, which is I think why he's looked a little bit.
But it doesn't fit the rest of the team is the issue.
Right? I agree. Like I don't think putting him on stuff like Ari and Rise in terms of the identity and Axis really works.
I think they need to revert back to what he did in Scouting Grounds, which got him scouted. Get him back on Renekton mids.
Yeah,
like Yaharong is playing that. Like Megamin is an assassin Renekton bruiser mid player. And plays a sick Galio and plays a sick Twisted Fate because guess what? Pseudo global ultimates for mid laners is a standard thing. Yeah, okay, he had a bad game on Rise. He's never been much of a Rise player in the LJL. So just I don't understand why Axis are like infinitely putting him on champions where it's like, Ari's not an assassin. Like, why the fuck are we putting him on that? Just put him on a Renekton mid and he'll kill people at level 2. I'm not joking.
The way he's playing the Ahri, that is not an assassin Ahri when you
and the build.
Fire. Like, if you want to build straight damage on the Ahri, okay, you can make the argument that she's pseudo assassin, and fine, maybe you can do that. But I agree. Like, Megaman right now just doesn't. Yeah, sure. Whatever it takes, damage is damage. But Megaman, I feel like it's. Look, like I said, the Rise is fine, but the way your comp wants to run is you just want to overload Sanchu every single game and get Sanchu running. And I think that's a viable strategy. I think LJL right now is the league of AD carries. If you don't have a strong AD carry, you can't win, which is why the Hawks are struggling. And it's the reason why Axis is coin flipping between good and bad right now. When they win, it's because they've got enough support, they've got Sanchu far ahead enough that Sanchu can carry the game. But if you don't get Sanchu ahead and teams can sort of stop the dives and just wait for Yellow Yoshi to just fall to oblivion because of scaling, then that's how they're winning. So I think Yeah, for Axis right now, you need to address the mid lane. That is your biggest gaping, bleeding wound, Megumin. And I don't know if it's just Megumin's playstyle, champion pool, draft, whatever it is, that needs to be fixed. And considering that Search has done such an amazing job with your draft,
Yes,
I've got to admit, I'm a little bit surprised that this is still an issue.
I broadly agree with you. Again, for me, it is much more of a playstyle thing, and I think maybe they think that because they're drafting this sort of smite top lane, they need a little bit more damage in the mid lane, so they're trying to like smooth out their profile here. But yeah, I broadly agree with you. Get Megaman back on sort of what he's comfortable on, what we know that he can play very well, and I think that Axis won't have another 0-3 week.
I'd have to check their schedule.
I don't
largely
agree with you on that at all. Nah.
No. Wait, actually, their upcoming schedule is brutal. It's DFM, Sengoku, and Burning Core. So they might have another
one more 0-3 weeks.
But,
Sorry.
But other than that, I agree with you, Middlecott. Like, generally, I'm not expecting otherwise.
I listened to it and I was like, I'm pretty sure this week they're going 0-3. I'm pretty sure I already looked into my crystal ball of what the predictions are. Because, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, obviously, you need to get your predictions out there. Obviously, tweet at us. Obviously, make sure you use the hashtag LJL podcast if you want to ask us questions and your predictions for the podcast. But anyway, Axis, Middlecott, they ain't going. They ain't picking up a win. Sadly, they're going 6.
Well,
they're going
might.
6.
They might.
This is just you playing with the teams I like, isn't it?
I think they can pick up the win.
Axis.
I think Axis, like, if they can catch teams off guard, that's like the best way they win right now. And there's other things they can do. There's other bits of cheeses, which I think there's a lot of underutilized champions. Xerath, being one of them. Maybe Megaman could pull out the Xerath. That's a pseudo global.
Oh, let my guy play Renekton again, man. Please.
Fine, okay. Maybe he pulls out Renekton, but I think there is a lot of cheese out there, and cheese isn't a bad thing. We all love our charcuterie boards here, so I want to see Axis pull out some cheese. You can sneak wins off of Sengoku and Burning Core. DFM probably not, but the other teams, it's possible. It's a non-zero chance.
Yeah.
Let's flip over to CJ. We've already touched on CJ, all three of us already, but I want to kind of talk about their losses, their loss, and their 2 wins, because I think that's an important context to set up for CGA moving forward here, because they got to win over the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks. They got to win over Axis. These are 2 teams. They kind of need wins over to kind of put them in a place of safety and security. Now, this is the first round robin. 2 and 3 towards the end of your first round robin is not a terrible place to be sitting.
Yep.
So, gentlemen, go for it, Middlecott.
Do you know what? They've beaten the teams that they need to, right?
They got V3 coming up tomorrow, literally tomorrow.
Yeah, and they're going to win that one as well.
Okay.
In my mind, but it's always been the sort of CJ way. They've been this gatekeeper team to a certain extent that have never really done too much, but they've existed in the LJL and they always
make playoffs, but to never make it past round 1.
They've always punished teams for being stupid whilst being incredibly stupid themselves, and I think that's the best way to characterize them. If you slip up and you don't transition an early game lead effectively into the mid game, CJ will punish you for that, and they keep doing it, and it keeps happening, and teams keep like taking their foot off the gas pedal when you need to be pedal to the metal against this team. Otherwise, they can just come back in those areas.
Yeah, full agreement there. I think Crest Gaming strikes me so far from what I've seen as a rather passive team for the most part. Like, they aren't going to be the ones forcing the game to you. You've kind of got to force it on them. And because of Hybrid in the bot lane as well, you do have to force it on them. Hybrid has impressed me as an AD carry. Really been doing amazingly well. And I think that's why we saw Axis and the Hawks lose. Because, like I said before, right now I think the LJL is the legal bot lane, right? And Hybrid is a really good bot laner. So if you can't overwhelm them before Hybrid comes online, things get a lot dicier. Axis, with that very high-risk style, unfortunately, Crest is probably their worst matchup. Stylistically, worst matchup's always DFM, but stylistically it's probably Crest, because Crest can just sit back and soak a lot of that insanity that Axis tries to pull, and they're not going to fall for it. They're just going to do their own thing, right? And that's what we saw in their game. And against the Hawks, Marble and Rhina just can't match up right now. They got run over, and then it became the Hybrid show.
I mean, it feels like. If I may, okay, you may.
If I may, I think for Hybrid, what's more interesting is his support player that's right next to him. Because remember, in an interview that Hina translated for us, by the way, Hina translates, search up on YouTube, she'll come right up #1. All of the LJL post-game translations are being done by her. Thank you, Hina. She is a star for the LJLO. Go follow her on Twitter, Lonely Hikamori. She translated the interview that Nemo did, and the question that was asked is, what's the difference between Hybrid and Honey? Honey was seen as more of a safe player that knows his limits. Whereas Hybrid, on the opposite end, is a limit tester. He will always push. He's got that LPL aggression, I feel like is the term that's used. Middlecott, what do you think of that?
I think is a completely correct statement. And it's sort of the thing that CGA needs. A player who they're going, we can fight. And that person not be Kasin, who apparently doesn't understand how to sense danger at all.
He's not got a spidey sense.
He's not got spidey senses at all. No Elise gameplay there. The LJL is a league where the best, the team that can play around their AD carry the best tends to win. CGA, playing a slower style, sort of ends up kind of playing around your AD carry, because if you look at some of the stats, and they are quite misleading because there are 1 or 2 games where Hybrid gets put absolutely in the dirt, but it's not like they're getting these leads at 15 minutes. It's not like their early games are even. They just exist. They get to a point in the mid game and they kill you.
Speaking to that stat right now, Crest Gaming has the lowest goal differential at 15. They are down negative 2.7k. So their early game.
You didn't have to say the number, Aaron. You didn't have to say the number, okay?
Sorry, I'm a color caster. That's my love blood. But yeah,
that's insane.
B3 is better in the early game, and that's because, like I said, Crest, they're really passive. Like, everybody else is getting objectives, forcing ganks, and Crest just kind of soaks it, right? Like, if you screw up your gank, you get punished for it. But if you set up your gank right, Crest is probably going to die.
No, that's actually a fair setup, because Sin just is never with the team, are they, RMC?
They are occasionally, and if they are, I feel like that's more a failure of the enemy team to track where Kasin went, because Kasin he's not crafty. Like, he's just farming his jungle. If you track where he starts, you know exactly where he's going to be.
And I think that's why I love watching Chris Gamiak versus Rascal Jester, because Hachimetra is one of the biggest brain junglers that we have in the league, and he will just track people when they've only seen them once. And he's like, I know where they should be going. Whereas Kasin's like, autopilot, and is probably getting screamed at by Kaito in the mid lane, who's just like losing like every other wave. Bless his little soul, Kaito is not having an easy time.
I'd have to check, but I'm pretty sure that Kasin actually just does the most standard pathing every game.
Which is great for Hachimetra, right?
Well, yeah, it's like, I'm going to start bot side. I'm going to clear all of my camps towards top side. Daring. I'm then going to reset and start my Krugs. Wow!
Yeah, I think he always does that. Four clear into check, not even a gank, and then back to Krug.
Yeah.
I think the information that's on factor.gg about Kasin's pathing is still good from 2021.
Yeah.
Probably. Which is the messed up thing. But gentlemen, CGA have got a reasonably okay schedule for next week. They've got V3 Esports, which I think we're all in tandem saying they should beat. They should pick up that win. They've got Rascal Jester, which is going to be a very good matchup for them, because RJ are currently 3-2, and they lost out to Sengoku, which we're going to cover in just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Do you think they're going to get that win, or are you just excited to see the game, lads?
I mean, recap is
Recap's going to make Kaito feel sad.
He's going to make him feel sad.
And with Hachimetra too, like you mentioned. Ooh, boy.
I think that Soul and Secret have been underperforming slightly. Maybe that's just a perception issue, because I think...
Mate, I'm okay with a spring hangover from those two.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. If we get Soul and Secret in their summer form at any point this year, in their 2021 summer point this year, I'm a very happy camper. And sort of like I was saying, maybe it's a case of the level of... Definitely the AD carries, potentially the bot lanes as a whole has gone up, so a little less hot on them than camping. But honestly, Rascal Jester, kind of disappointed. Thought they should be doing a little bit better at this stage, but I think that's still an uphill battle if you're CGA.
We'll grab them in a moment. Their other match to end us before our next week's podcast is going to be Crest Gaming Act facing off against the rematch. Now that we've done the round robin, random order for round 2 for the second round robin, they're facing off against the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming, and I would argue that's a bigger match for the Hawks. That is a make or break. I hate that MSI stole that one, but that is an actual like crux, because if they lose that one, they are so far behind, and they're going to have to beat the top 4 teams as opposed to the bottom 2 teams to also find those extra wins. Like, it's a rough one. RMC, how do you see this?
Yeah, no, I fully agree there. I mean, for the Hawks here, you can't just win against like, you know, the bottom place team, right? Like, you've got to prove a little bit more. And CGA is the team like you really need to beat to show your stuff. And I'm actually really concerned about it because I just don't know how they're going to do it with Marble and Lina against Hybrid and Nema. All right, I said it earlier. They lost that lane. And if you can't win that lane, or at least go even, like, I don't know what else they're going to do. I think every other lane went fine. I think this was day 5, right? So this was just a Sunday match.
Yep.
Like, Kinatsu has been Kinatsu's not playing League of Legends this season. No. Kinatsu's been playing Farming Simulator top lane the entire time. And it's working. Honestly, Kinatsu's numbers are incredibly high. He's winning the 1v1. He's applying a ton of pressure. And I actually hate the fact that he has to go join the rest of the team. Because at this point in time, I think you just abandon the team, do your own thing. Blank has just looked completely disconnected from everybody else on this team.
Yeah.
Like, he's good. It disgusts me too, because I'm watching his pathing, I'm watching his ganks, and I'm watching how he's dueling, and he's winning a lot of those. And then the problem is anytime it becomes more than a 1v1, nope, doesn't work out. Dash has been trying to back him up, and they still don't look good, right? Like, Dash is going in, Blank's going out. Dash going out, Blank's going in. It's like, okay, this should work. Dasher has been trying to carry this entire team, and I am very impressed by Dasher. Dasher had some interesting stats as well. I think they've got the highest kill participation right now. They've got the third highest.
When your team only gets 4 kills, mate, it's not hard to get highest kill participation.
Well, the Hawks are getting kills. They're not even down on kills. Like, even when they lose, they get kills. And it's Dasher forcing plays. And I'm watching Dasher and I'm crying for him here on the Corki, just diving in. Ari, Vex, LeBlanc, all these champions are trying to make things happen. And Dasher's trying. And in most other metas, I think that would be okay. Because I think mid lanes can carry. Just not this meta. When we're like all around the Jinx, all around, you know, the Zeri, the Aphelios, like all these AD carries, like, Dasher can't do it alone, and Marble's just sitting back there, not contributing. You guys, you know, what was the worst bot lane you guys were talking about there?
I mean, it's got to be wait, it's V3's bot lane, right?
V3's bot lane. Okay, yeah. I would argue that the Hawks are right down there with them right now, and they need to fix that because
I think that's probably fair.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. If they can get Marble back to form, I think we're good.
Well, we're yet to see that, mate, and I mean, I think it's a very important week for the Hawks to find it. They've got V3 Esports, they've got CGA, and they've got Sengoku. They've got a tough match where they need to start showing their weight. A team that needs to pick themselves up, though, is the middle of the place, 4th place team of Rascal Jester, who had a topsy-turvy week, to say the least. They looked fine. They still had a positive week of going 2-1. They beat the bottom teams in, I would say, convincing fashion. But then the Sengoku game was just, it was close, but it also felt like it was close for a period and then it just wasn't. Like, it just felt like the game was over and Sengoku got to just kind of out-control them, to use a Magic the Gathering analogy.
Yeah.
Neither of you really want to take this, do you?
I find it difficult to sort of talk about Rascal Jester right now, because they were a team that we had really, really high expectations of coming in.
Yeah, majority of the time, everyone was putting them in their top 3.
Top 3 at least. And I think you would have to have some very strong reasoning to argue it. But it's just not clear. They just haven't been winning games. They've got a better schedule, so I think it will sort of even out in the aggregate over this week. But yeah,
they have also had their DFM game, whereas Burning Core and Sengoku have. One of them has, haven't they?
Sengoku had it. Yeah.
Burning Core
lost to Sengoku, so that's why.
That's right, and we haven't had Burning Core DFM. That's coming this week, which is an exciting match, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. don't feel like Rascal Jester's dying by any means. Like I think specifically this week, the game against Sengoku, the reason why I was hesitating is I wanted to double check my memory of it because
I had to bring the scoreboard up as well.
yeah, because I was like, wait, if I recall correctly, I think Sengoku Gaming actually really impressed me that game more than Rascal.
Oh no,
Jester's.
they did. But
Yeah,
it's not to discredit Rascal Jester. Like they didn't roll over versus Sengoku, is what I more meant.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. And I think Rascal Jester is still a top 3 team. It's just I think Sengoku caught me
Who's
off
not
guard.
in it then, mate? If you're going to make that statement,
Burning Core.
Okay,
I think it's
thank you.
DFM, Sengoku, Rascal Jesters. And I think Sengoku, I actually had Rascal Jester second above Sengoku. But after that series, like Sengoku they're looking incredibly good right now. They're looking like the second place team in the league because they know their win con. They have an insurance policy in Jet as well, and they've been playing really cleanly to it.
What's going on?
RMC.
Okay.
Middlecott already knows this. Welcome to Honey's Domain.
Okay, yeah. But
I don't think to be back. The AD carry, man!
It's not just Honey. That's why I talked about the insurance policy, because I think if you just have Honey, you can shut this team down. And I think if it was just Honey, Rascal Jesters would have been able to answer. But I think Jet being the insurance policy makes it such that, hey, if we spend too much time on Honey, Jet's going to wreck us. And then you've got to split time, and suddenly it's like, okay, now we've got problems. We can't shut down both of them. Not many teams have the ability to match in multiple lanes like that.
I think that's probably the sickest way to sum up Sengoku Gaming. They have Honey with insurance, which is not what they really had with Axis, if you remember Middlecott. Like, Hoglet was having to play insurance and also, like, Snowball Beginner as well. Like, he had to do 2 jobs in one. What do you think of Rascal Jester's Sengoku match?
Yeah, again, it was sort of just a display of how good Honey is an AD carry, and sort of a little bit of where my disappointment with Soul and Secret has come from, because I think that they should be doing a little bit better as one of the few, maybe the only duo actually. Hold on, just need to check my head. That's actually stayed together for this year.
They got pounded by Paz though, because Paz support Rome and with one. So like I feel I agree with you. I do think Soul hasn't performed completely up to standard, but I'm going to give them a pass that game because they got bullied.
Could call it a Paz.
Middlecott, I'll only take that once.
Okay. If I'd said that on cast, you would have laughed. And you'd have been
yes,
forced
of course.
to.
We would have all backed you up if we're on cast, but we're not on cast.
Sure.
This
right,
is
guys,
the podcast.
Right?
Different.
Oh, I didn't realise.
Yeah. It's all right, mate. But I mean, honestly, I think you highlighted a player on the side of Sengoku that I would love to kind of highlight a little bit. As honestly, gentlemen, actually, before I do we have anything else we would like to say on Rascal Jester? I think they've been perfectly fine as a team. It's just, hey, 2 in 1 week. They beat the teams they should have. There's not much to say about that. Sengoku just kind of had their number.
Yeah, I will say that for a team who's supposed to be a clown show, I am decidedly unimpressed with their lack of fiesta here.
Yeah, do you know what? Actually, I dislike the Rascal Jester becoming a reliable middle of the pack to upper of the pack team. That doesn't feel. That's not what I was promised when I joined the LJL.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Like they should be playing Axis style. Come on.
What can I say except, gentlemen, you are welcome, Rascal Jet. We have multiple teams that actually play high-level League of Legends here. It's the luxury that we get here, and the fact that the Jesters do it just make fun. We get to make fun of the teams that don't do that. That's what the Jesters mean, because you're fools if you are below the Jesters. Anyway, though, the Jesters have absolutely been performing us. Expecting a deep run in playoffs from them, personally, I am. Like, can never count them out. Can't count them out. They're a player that I've been surprisingly impressed with, and if you followed any of our coverage last year, you'll know that this player was it's like Sinner.
A little bit.
It's like Inter sometimes. Yep. Kind of ran it down a bit.
Little bit.
My God. Where the fuck has this come from? On multiple like, why are you suddenly now? Did we sacrifice like Apperman and you just like took his life force so you actually have hands again? Like, Jesus Christ, the insurance policy on Honey, not only Jet, but playing like he's he? Maybe that's where TSM's top laner's gone.
Maybe.
It all makes sense now. But Sengoku Gaming, fantastic week from them. Amazing game from their side against Rascal Jesters, and then also going having a really strong performance, right? Like they beat Burning Core in pretty strong fashion as well. This is with Flawless and Ray Farkey like switching and doing really weird, stupid shit. That's partly why they got that game.
Write that off for me. Write that off.
Yeah, we're not going to look at that one. And they also had a very easy schedule because they also had V3 Sports, who they flattened, to put it lightly. Gentlemen, Sengoku Gaming, I'm going to come over to you, RMC, first for this one. What do you think?
Yeah. Like I said, I think right now they're looking like the second place team, top 3 team. I've heard people say that they're not a very consistent team and that they tend to perform well in the beginning. And then once, they're basically a scam. Once you put your money in, they just vanish. But for now,
NFTs, mate.
Oh, my bad. NFTs. What's the difference between NFT and a scam?
Legality.
Fair. Okay, yeah, but I mean, so far Sengoku, they're legal, so I guess they're an NFT here. And they're looking really good. I don't know what more to say, right? Like until they start to fall apart. Yeah. And even if they fall apart too, I can see 1 or 2 players having a bad game, and this team will still be a top 3 team. It will take multiple people, and by which I mean both Jet and Honey, falling apart in the same game, I think, to really start to fall apart here. So yeah, they're a big challenge to everybody, like how are you gonna beat them?
Well, Middlecott, how do you beat Sengoku?
So this is a difficult thing for me.
Why? Because it's your bias, sir.
Well, no, right. I'm inherently biased against Sengoku purely because Temporal and Melvin is also. But I also really, really like Honey, which has put me in quite a difficult position. I think fundamentally you need to take 2 lanes out of the game. Because I think Paz, Jet, and Honey all have carry potential. I think those last 2 probably a little bit more. And you also need to attack them in draft really intelligently. You can't let either of those bot side guys, the mid laner or the AD carry, get their carry champions. So probably takes a bigger brain than mine, honestly, to work out how you beat them. Because from what I've seen so far, apparently you need to be called DFM, and that's the only way.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a really good way to set this point up is because DFM couldn't brute force just beat Sengoku, right? Like, they couldn't brute force them. So they just went, all right, fine. You don't want to roll over like every other team does to us because we're DFM and we just have better hands. Fine, you've got good hands. Well done. Well, we have bigger brains and they just out-macroed the fuck out of them.
Actually saying that, they did just remove once from the game. That they targeted him out so hard and they made it so difficult find any like proactive plays on the Lee Sin.
But that's also just a steal special.
I mean, that is a steal special, and you did pick the Lee Sin into the Poppy, which is a little bit.
Yeah, and Poppy ult just every time he comes in,
nope. Yeah. Way to beat Sengoku, be very good.
I do think DFM did also sort of lay the groundwork or the sort of a blueprint for how to beat Sengoku, right? Yes. I think Steel having the Poppy was amazing to lock down once. But aside from that, I think the Camille from Evi was a huge part of it as well. Because Camille punishes AD carries or single squishy target. So that counters Honey pretty much, regardless whatever support you want to run with that team. And having the Poppy or somebody to further isolate that, doesn't have to be a Poppy. You can go with, Galio Camille combo as well. Just something to say like, hey, you can't even come in here to the Hextech Ultimatum. We are 100% going to isolate them and then sort of systematically dismantle Sengoku, I think is the only answer right now. The issue is you have to beat Paz in lane to do that. And Evi can do it. How many of the top laners can do that while having your mid laner match Jet as well?
Only other Kinatsu.
Can Kinatsu do it?
Yeah, Kinatsu has proven he can do it. Like he has proved in his he beat Ebby in 1v1s like in a playoffs juggernaut best of 5 series. Like I trust Kinatsu to have he has better hands, he doesn't have better game knowledge. I would argue that's where Paz's the brain comes into it, not the hands or the ability on the champions. But I do think you're correct by that. I do think you're correct.
Yeah. Because what I've seen from Kinatsu so far, like I said, he's not been playing League of Legends, so I actually don't know how well he will match up against most top laners. He's just power pushing on the side, right? Which is well and good. But if you just want to win lane, Ray Farkey might be able to do that against Paz. But Ray Farkey, I wouldn't trust to team fight quite the same way, right? So you need to be able to both win the lane and team fight, which is then narrows the field down quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it does mean we've only got our top 2 teams. What about you, Middlecott? Anything else you want to say on Sengoku?
I hope they lose next time they play CGA.
Opium. Very good, sir. Very good. I'll get that sorted for you, sir. Burning Core are the next team that we should talk about as we run through this gauntlet of teams. And, I mean, it's a weird one because they went 2-0 this week. We don't count a game today because, I mean, what... Okay, we have to unravel a little bit. I'm going to bring it up so it will be below our faces in a moment. But let's talk about those 2 other games that Burning Core had. And they had a win over the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming in a 36-minute fiesta. That is the correct terminology to use for that match. And then they actually had a free game because Ray Farkey got to play against nobody because there was a bard in his lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who wants to explain to me why Burning Core went 2-0 this week?
So the mid jungle's quite good.
Yeah, it's mid jungle pretty good.
The mid jungle's quite good. Honestly, Flawless has been a little bit.
That's
His
fair.
name's a little bit Flawless.
That's fair. Yeah.
I think he's really hit the ground running. The synergy with Dice is very, very strong. I mean, we've seen the sort of slow down come out from and be just disgusting against the Hawks. That was honestly brutal at some points. Ray Farkey's been stable, but, and Hina's going to like this, the bot lane, Yuhi, is actually not the worst AD carry in the league.
Yeah, I feel like Burning Core is what the Hawks want to be.
Yes. do you know what? I wholeheartedly endorse that statement.
It's weird that we have to give praise to Yuhi after genuinely
I can tell that you don't want to.
No, it's the fact that like for a year and a half I was like, I don't get why this team's playing him. Like I just don't understand that there are countless players who are better than him, just like strictly better.
Yeah.
I though would also argue, is Yuhi finally just on a good team that they can all just carry the corpse?
Well, I wouldn't say he's a corpse feels a little harsh from what I've seen.
Burning corpse.
Oh, okay.
Right. He's not a corpse. He's maybe.
I thought you were talking about Yuhi. I was like, bro,
I don't want to give Hina a heart attack. I need those translations still, please. God, I can't be having the boyfriend dying. Jesus Christ.
Desperately attempting to flame Yuhi as much as possible while still having translations.
Absolutely, that's what I want to do. I want to be on that like little tightrope. I'm like, ooh.
Okay.
But yeah, Burning Core. I mean, honestly, all the players have been stepping up a lot, and the player that honestly, outside of Yuki, that's impressed me a lot has been Fujimoto, because I thought he would be the really vulnerable heart. I honestly, when we were doing, everyone was doing their predictions and stuff. I remember talking to a lot of people, and I was like, yeah, but Burning Core have a good top side, but their bot side's going to get run over, and their bot lane hasn't gotten run over, which is surprising, I feel. What about you guys?
I would just say they have played 4 games of Tahm Kench.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. I mean,
I think to a certain extent they keep getting exactly what they want in every single draft. Which is fine because I don't think that you should be throwing bans or should be throwing draft countering you or Fujimoto in the bot lane. But one of the things that maybe gives me a little bit of cause for concern is when they go up against a team like, I don't know, DFM, who have very strong players in all of those roles and will attack a weak point if they see it in draft, whether that is a single player on an otherwise weak roster that is carrying them. We saw that they do that against Axis in the summer playoffs where they banned 580 carries against Huddy and play the game. Or they could try and target out Yuhi and Fujimoto for a little bit less comfortable, and then maybe we start to see those mistakes creep back in that we know that Yuhi does make a few times, and Fujimoto is a player that is coming through from Academy, obviously going to be a little bit rustier than some of the other supports. I actually playing incredibly well, all things considered. But
Mhm.
I think there's a potential for a paper tiger around the Burning Court if Flawless and Dicey aren't and Dice aren't able to get off to the races. But ignoring that and putting that to a side for team.
Lost some of your audio to the very
Yeah.
end there, mate.
Oh, well, that's good. I wasn't saying anything important.
Oh, okay, well, that's perfectly fine then. I want to take us over because I've done it. I've only gone and done it, gentlemen.
Oh, nice.
So,
Okay, yeah.
RMC, we're both, you and me here, we're meant to be the big brain color casters.
No.
I
not like
can't,
this.
and I have tried to understand. I can't understand why you'd put Ray Farkey into the jungle on Smite Graves and you'd have Flawless play Janna Smite support jungle occasionally going top. What is this technology?
This is the Dark Ages, MaskedSwan. This is the technology we're talking about
cool.
here.
We're not in the Dark Ages, we're just in darkness. Dark times, right?
Pretty much. I mean, Middlecott and I actually cast this game, and I remember we were shocked when we saw this, and we thought it was like a Janna top, and I was like, this is madness. Yeah, putting Ray Farkey on support. And even, like, and I don't know if it's better or worse that they put Ray Farkey in the jungle. At least he was on a carry. But, yeah, this just doesn't work. I still don't understand why they did this. Like, there is no advantage to taking Ray Farkey out of lane. You can put him in lane, and he can win against Paz. So the idea here was what? Gank the bot lane and set Honey behind? You're not going to... Like, Dice versus Jet is 50-50. I don't think that's like a Dice or Jet favorite lane. I think that's pretty even here. But Yuhi versus Honey? Even if you throw everything at the kitchen sink at Honey, I'm still not placing bets on Yuhi.
No, even if I knew it was going to be a 3v2 lane, like if I just knew it was 3v2 and everything was going on Yuhi and everything was against Honey, I still take Honey because there's a Thresh there.
You know what? I think the question we need to ask here is how much did Hina pay Burning Core to try and promote Yuhi this hard?
We'll wait for those DMs. We will wait, Hina. We will wait.
I mean, to be fair, Yuhi looked like the best player that game.
He did.
So
that's the fucked up
kind
thing
of
for me
worked,
to
I
agree
guess.
with.
Like it kind of worked. Yeah, I don't know. I think Hina says in chat as well that, to be fair, they said later in an interview that it was a failure, never again. They were experimenting. You know what?
Yeah.
And if this was last split, best time to experiment. Bottom two teams have at it. This particular split, I think it'll come back and bite Burning Core a little bit that they gave up this free win here. Not saying they would have won otherwise, but I do think this one was a little bit of a unfortunate give.
Before I hand it to you, Middlecott, head-to-head rankings, remember, are going to be important because you won't have those tiebreaker matches. But what do you think of this match in general?
That was exactly where I kind of wanted to go with this. Is already, I think we're looking at Sengoku and Burning Core as our top, sort of like our second, third place teams, and how that actually pans out when we get towards playoffs is very important because obviously 1 and 2 go into the Juggernaut match, and that ticket to the final. Rascal Jesters won a benefit of that last split. And being forced to go into just sort of like the playoffs format, you are playing a lot more League of Legends. There's a lot more opportunities for you to fall down in situations that maybe you shouldn't. And you're going to be showing a lot more of your drafts and your playstyles to your opponents. So I think securing that second place spot would be very important. And I'd have to agree. This is a little bit of a didn't need to happen Burning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a weird spot. I'm hopeful that Burning Core won't come to bite them too much, but I do think we are right. I do think it's correct that it's good to experiment, but there are certain teams where you can get away with it from a Burning Core perspective, and there are certain teams where I get the cheese, but maybe just trust your players a bit more because these players
do this against Hawks or V3, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah, or even like, CGA and Axis. Like, do it versus the bottom four. If you think of yourself as a top 4, do it versus the bottom 4 and push yourself and limit test yourself against the top 4.
Like, 100%. I think going after a strong AD carry, this sort of style, is not a bad idea. But you need to go after teams without the insurance policy, right? Like, Axis doesn't have an insurance policy. It's Sanctuary or die. CGA as well is largely hybrid or die. Maybe Nap can carry occasionally.
Yeah.
But,
the issue is,
you know,
Honey's done a whole year being that. He's literally done a year of that, even on Axis, remember, RMC.
True. Yeah. So I just think this was one of the worst matchups to try it in, unfortunately. And if it worked, it would have been absolutely brilliant. And Burning Core would always have that in their back pocket if it worked. But the stakes it's a little bit too high risk, medium reward for my tastes here. And hey, we'll see whether or not maybe it's still okay. Maybe they'll be fine.
Well, we'll have to see. They've still got some time, and I mean, hey, if we're thinking about everything, they're still tied for second at the moment, both these two teams. It's an interesting one. It was a weird game for you two to have to try and cast over and get those curveballs. But a team that had 0 curveballs against them this week was Detonation Focus Me. All of their games were sub 30 minutes. They are continuously not 20. Jesus Christ, that would be
that would have been something different. That would have been something different.
But I mean, they had a very fast game, and they had the second fastest. I think they actually came after we had the fastest game got rewritten by V3. Actually, no.
Did they? I thought they had the fastest against V3.
They now reclaim the fastest game because they beat the V3 time that was previously set. I remember casting that match with Kashka. So yeah, DFM secured the fastest game again, took that away from someone who beat the Hawks.
Axis, 11 seconds different.
Perfect. Yes, take any form of pride that Axis can take away from this split. Just rip it away from them. No, you can have nothing.
Axis still has hope. Axis still has hope.
Yeah, they got Yellow Yoshi. They've got great content. They've always got great content because of that guy. And they've got 2 fantastic Korean imports. In all fairness, so I mean, they've got a lot of hope and pride. I
believe
but
Axis.
Detonation Focus Me.
I mean,
DFM 3-0. Sub 30 minutes, and is it fair to say that we're still living in DFM's world, even with Arya and Gang gone? We're still in their world. We're just living in it. How can any of these teams beat the Middlecott?
We're still online play, right? I envisioning DDoS attacks.
Cut your internet.
Cut your internet. A power outage. Genuinely, though, you sort of joke about stuff like that, but DFM really hit the floor running, hit the ground running this spring. I thought that there were going to be issues integrating Yaharong and Harp into the roster. That's been emphatically not the case.
Yeah.
I think in their...
Well, actually, the opposite's occurred, right?
No. Yeah.
Because of certain interviews that we've heard about Yaharong.
Yeah, well, we've heard it. Basically, every single person that has been interviewed on DFM talked about how great the team environment is. Yaharong is doing translation stuff, which Steel would be doing. Obviously, sort of both Korean players playing in the Japanese league, so there's going to be a little bit of language different there, but apparently that is not even an issue at all. Yeah. In sort of week 1, I felt like the composition was a bit more restrained, sort of going, you know what, Yaharong, Harp, you don't do too much crazy, just stay solid, stay safe in your lanes, and then Yuta and Ebby can carry. But they've really sort of started coming into their own, and I know that a couple of people have been talking about, does this DFM side actually eclipse the team that went to Worlds? And I think that maybe not at this stage just yet, but that is definitely a conversation that we need to start having if they continue on this run of form.
Let's see if they go like 14-0 first.
Yeah.
They've got to break the streak before I will consider it. But I mean, honestly, I would like the opinion of someone that hasn't got so much biasy towards the old DFM roster. RMC, what do you think of a dominant team like DFM at the moment?
Well, I don't think any team can beat DFM right now in the LJL. I mean, we were talking about for the side of, who was it again? The insurance policy team that was Sengoku, right? And if we're talking about insurance policy for Sengoku here, like all of Detonation Focus Me can carry. Steel has thoroughly impressed me a lot with the well, as the name suggests,
everything.
Steals. Yeah. Oh. So, and Evie, you know, top 3 in his position. Yaharong looking top 3. Utapon looking top 3. Harp top 3. The team's just too good as a whole right now. And the top 3, I would say, I'd argue that in some of these roles, they are the top in their role. So it's just
almost like no change happened.
Basically. Do I think they're stronger than old DFM? From a global perspective, I'll say no. I do think DFM, at least so far from what we've seen, does have exploitable things. I think their early game is really slow.
Yes.
They are very content to just sort of sit back, knowing that, hey, we lane better, and we just need to play to our power spikes. We don't need to force Herald. In fact, they've only got a 50% Herald rate. It was, I think, 25 before this last week. Like in the first 3 games, they were willing to give up Herald over and over and over again. They don't care about it. We'll give you first start if you want it that badly. We'll just punish you somewhere else. They had a 90% dragon control rate before this last week. This last week things got a little bit dicey, but it's because I think they were a bit more willing to punish and look for kills and accelerate the pace of the game.
I think they were playing against weaker teams as well.
True, yeah. But before that, whenever they're up against stronger teams, I do think they are a bit too passive in the early game, and that is an opportunity for teams to try and look to make their things happen. But the moment we hit like the 20-minute mark, Thanos snap every time. Yeah. They know their power spikes, 1.5 items, 2-item power spike. We just go and we punish, and their coordination has looked the cleanest out of any team. I don't think any team can team fight them right now.
Which is hilarious, because if you remember, when DFM had their super team, we only got it for the summer split and that Worlds run. We only actually got them for that summer split and Worlds run.
Just remember, saw them at Worlds.
Spring season, we had Arya and Gang tagged out, and we had Kazu in. And we still went to MSI, and we still beat C9. Yeah, fucking suck it, C9. You're shit now. I'm Look, check out my Twitter. It's right below. It's right below my name right here. You can find my opinion on C9, ladies and gentlemen. There we go.
I'm pretty sure the whole coaching situation looked at how strong DFM. Like, oh, we need to bring in some bigger guns than LS. Like, how are we going to deal with these? They've murked us every time we've gone international.
Is available as a coach at the moment. So if C9, if you're looking out for a good coach that has led DFM in the past to success, I mean, he's available. Just saying, he's not on Damwon Kia anymore. Yeah, that's where he went after us. Yeah, just.
Oh, it's just a bit of an upgrade.
Just whatever. Just a bit of a good move. But I mean, that's the crazy thing, and I think I love that you've already set up RMC for us. That DFM have got weaknesses at the moment. There are points where they could be exploited. The fact is, this version of DFM, who looks really good. I'm not saying they're not the best DFM version we've ever seen. They've still got to do things that they did with Seros before. They still need to reach the heights that DFM has done with previous rosters, with Seros and Gang when that was there, or Arya and Gang. If Yaharong and Harp have the time of this DFM roster, which they do, and assuming nothing crazy happens, this could be the team that goes the distance. Like, we get a repeat of everything. The thing, and we've got the time. We've got the full year for this roster. Middlecott, though, in your heart of hearts, do you think it's possible?
Well, no, because CGA are going to Worlds, and they're getting out of groups.
Good boy! Right? Yes, and I agree. The Hawks will be going to Worlds as well. Yes, very good, very good.
LJL 2 seeds.
One day.
Again.
No. What we want is DFM to have a performance, a repeat performance, and we can take VCS slot. There we go! We figured it!
Oh, actually.
That's so rough. But apparently VCS should be coming to international events this coming MSI.
Yes.
Cross fingers.
Which should be good.
I really want to see the VCS there.
Going back to DFM, it's been 5 games. They've been 5 pretty good games, but 5 games nonetheless.
Pretty good.
You can't judge a roster based on that sort of short period of time. But
yes,
we've seen
I
good
can.
signs.
I can do results-based orientated thinking because we're on the podcast. This is the safe space.
No, you can. Yeah, they're going to win the thing.
Yes.
Wait and see. That's my message to people with this DFM. It could very well be the case that we've got another roster put together in the LJL, which very strong domestically, but doesn't quite push it on the international stage. Personally, I'm up on these guys. I think that they're going to do it. We've seen DFM consistently perform, and I think that last year was really a watershed moment for the LJL in general in terms of international performance. But I've still got flashbacks to V3 at Worlds, and I really don't want to.
No, mate. They've solved it. They've already done good at Worlds once. They know the formula. They also have Kazu and Seros both going to these events to be the coaches with We're sorted, mate. It's okay. It's not V3.
By the time MSI rolls around, like MaskedSwan was saying, this team's got a lot of time to grow. And I think there's a lot of potential here, and they could potentially, be a very good team at MSI. But as it stands right now, no bias at all. If they were to play against international teams, CBLOL takes it.
I knew you would say that. I knew you would say that.
I mean, that's just hopium going. Do you remember last time, mate?
You guys didn't play Brazil. Just and
Do you know what? Like I said, I was the first seed. Where was your first seed?
I made special point when I go into CBLOL. Look, I didn't mention anything about international events. I was really kind and respectful. I was like, oh yeah, some of these teams are. Yeah,
no, you just plugged LJL every other sentence.
I did plug LJL every other sentence.
I will say that DFM last split. This is why I said that I do think the old DFM roster is still stronger at this point, right? This team can grow, and I think it's a stylistic mismatch where internationally a lot of regions are actually playing faster right now. The early game control invades farming junglers versus early ganking junglers. I feel like DFM, they're playing the ganking junglers, but they're not. Actually, no, Steel's not been playing ganking junglers. It's just the Poppy. He plays it like one.
Poppy, man. He's finding ganks anyway.
Yeah, he's playing it like a ganking jungler. But I will say, I do think the early game is the exploitable part for DFM, right? And that's why I say internationally right now, I do think this DFM roster would struggle against a lot of international teams. And I actually really hope that here in the LJL, teams will start punishing them a little bit more, just so they can toughen them up, that they can get ready. But when I'm looking at who plays the early game right now, we've got what? Axis? Like Hachimecha, so maybe Roscoe Jesters, like two teams.
Axis and a fifth of Roscoe Jesters.
Well, it's really the jungle who needs to punish him.
Yeah,
right? Like we can
but I don't see Hachimecha ever challenging Steel in the jungle.
Yeah, that's kind of true. Like there's a bit of a gap. So I'm just worried that DFM doesn't grow because they're not getting challenged enough.
I could see Burning Core flipping the switch if they feel like it's just not going to work. Like if they think they're going to be the 3rd/4th place team. I could see them, like, I feel like maybe even that match against Sengoku starts to show the idea that maybe Burning Core are like, hey, we're going to be that topper team, that higher team that's going to try the bullshit out.
And like, do you know what I want? I want to see like a merger between Burning Core and Sengoku.
Yes.
Like that bot lane with that mid jungle.
Oh.
I think that's your answer, okay? But it's probably not going to happen.
That's a Farky.
Doesn't matter. Could be me. Like those 4 guys are way too strong.
Could be you.
Sure.
Could be you, Middlecott. There is that you are if you can get an account on Japan to to Diamond 2, you can be in Scouting Grounds. You too could be in Scouting Grounds.
Whoa, amazing!
And also live in Japan.
I might too one day be able to get gapped by Ebby. That would be an honor. That would be.
That is an honor.
Like a lot of people would be really cool to have that.
I would pay decent money to get my shit stomped in by Ebby in top lane. Like that would be amazing.
Just like my Ebby mouse mat that you can't really see. But there we go. The Ebby Hada mouse mat that DFM gifted me because I wanted.
Oh my goodness.
How many other people in the UK have one of those?
Probably no one, mate. Probably no one. Probably just me.
It's so cool.
Probably just me. And you know something that probably only us 3 have the pleasure of doing is answering a podcast question, gentlemen. Oh, yeah, it's question time. Ladies and gentlemen over in the Twitch chat, or if you are a live viewer or just watching the VOD, remember you can ask us questions by joining into our Discord. Going over, Ross, once you've accepted the rules as well, go over to podcast questions channel, just type your question in and we'll answer it as best as possible. Or if you're not really that kind of person, just go onto Twitter and just hashtag podcast LJL podcast. We'll answer it over here. So you've got options. Our first question that I'm actually aware of.
Whoa, hold up. You guys didn't tell me that when we take shots at Hina, she gets to take shots back at us in the question period.
Yeah, she always does.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
but you should out yourself for not paying attention to the podcast. I know. Just out yourself, man, mate. I didn't even have to do it. You just did it anyway.
Like I said, I got told 30 minutes before. You free?
That's fair. You know what?
That's my defense.
Hina comes and asks us, hello, Travis.
Hello,
Hina. Long time viewer. I know you are. First time caller from the UK. Oh, lovely UK people. Fantastic.
Whoa,
they
great.
stay up till like 4 a.m. to ask questions to Travis. And then just doesn't, then they fall asleep.
Yeah.
I've had that. DFM is not weaker. How dare you say that? Than 2021 DFM. Sure, the players may not individually the same, but they have insane synergy, which makes their early game much better. And in current LoL, macro decisions are usually worth more, which is also shining in now. What do you think of this take? What do you think of the idea that actually this version of DFM actually might just be better because they have a slightly different playstyle? And also that the LoL meta is in a different place right now.
I think we've spent the last 10 minutes going.
We did.
Nearly,
We've
nearly, but not quite. Nearly, but not quite is my.
Nearly, but not quite. Okay. What about you, RMC?
Yeah, I mean, like Middlecott said, we just kind of went over it. I do agree that macro is really important and synergy is really, really nice. But like I said, I think the biggest problem right now is just the early game. And, you know, once they shore that up, once we get to see them test it a little bit more, yeah, I'm down to agree that maybe they might be better. But till I get to see that a little bit. And again, that's the LJL's fault, right? Like teams need to test them a bit harder. If not, I am not convinced just yet.
Well, thank you, Hina, for that question. We have just been talking about that exact same topic for ages. So, I mean, bless you. You asked the question after I had even read the chat. So, I mean, it's partially my fault. It's partially my fault, but I'm not going to take full responsibility because I'm producing this shit. So, whatever. Gentlemen, that actually brings us to the end of this podcast episode. We have ran over all of the teams in the LJL, and these are episodes that are really important to do because between the weeks people can get lost between everything. By the way, everybody, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please go follow Middlecott is me on Twitter and RandomMCaster over on Twitter. I would really love that. Obviously, I'm at Feat.MaskedSwan, you know that. Go and find my opinions on C9 there. Not that controversial, actually. If you look at Reddit, it's actually kind of what most people are thinking right now. Crazy. But that's actually the end of the LJLOU podcast. I want to thank RandomMCaster. This is your first ever podcast on. How have you found it, sir?
It's been fun. It's been good. Thanks for having me on, and hopefully, you know, might be back in the future. Who knows?
Have you got anything else you'd like to plug? After I said that, geez, wow.
The timing.
Wow.
I'm kidding. Well, I don't know if I'm kidding. Depends on how much MaskedSwan hates me after this. But yeah, no, come watch the LJLOU. I mean, you're here watching this, so you probably watch it already. But it's super fun.
You don't have to plug us, mate. This is our podcast. If they're listening to this, they probably watch the broadcast, mate.
Yeah. Still gonna plug it anyways because I do think LJL is fun. Come watch CBLOL as well. It's not at the same time, so that's good. Yeah, it's crazy over there. Take it or leave it.
Thank you so much. Middlecott, this ain't your first rodeo on the podcast, but it's always a pleasure to have you on.
Oh, I know. I'm brilliant.
You have been. Yes.
Yeah, obviously Middlecott, casting, all that good jazz. I am actually, should I leak this? It's not too much of a leak. On Saturday, I'm going to be doing some play-by-play casting for English. So if you want to check that out.
Sorry.
VCS English. VCS English. Yeah.
You're in the world tour.
Yeah, so yeah, a little bit of a world tour. A lot of fun over there. I can't remember who I'm casting at this exact moment in time, but it's VCS. It'll be chaotic. It'll be amazing. It'll be a whole hope of fun. So yeah, follow me on Twitter and I'll post updates about what I'm doing on that.
Lovely. Love to hear it. Myself. Maybe I'll make a video. Maybe not. I don't know. I've been twiddling with this idea of LoL esports and how it's almost perfect and it's a complete catastrophe. So I mean, it's a complex topic that I've been knocking around in my head. Really, ever since they took away match history from us, that's really kind of had this whole kicking and screaming in my head for. Now I'm actually experiencing the lack of match history. So I might make a video. I might not. We'll have to wait and see. Regardless, follow me on Twitter because I'm shit posting a lot more now. So yeah, I'm learning from Middlecott, even though I was before Middlecott, but I'm learning from Middlecott because you have to sometimes, you can be the master, but you can still be the student. That's how I see it. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's the LJL Officially Unofficial Podcast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Rate us 5 stars on iTunes. I'd really appreciate that. And that's it. Gentlemen, we're done. That's us done. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.